In my past life, my stepmother swapped me and my half-sister in our swaddling clothes. She became the legitimate daughter, while I remained the illegitimate one. She married into the duke's household, while I was betrothed to a poor scholar. Later, enemy forces invaded, slaughtering the imperial clan. As the daughter of the eldest princess, she perished beneath the enemy's blades. Yet my husband transformed overnight, becoming the enemy commander, ascending the throne as emperor, and crowning me empress. When I opened my eyes again, it was the day matchmakers arrived to propose marriage. My younger sister revealed her true identity without hesitation before everyone. She declared she would marry the poor scholar. A daughter of lowly birth is unworthy of the duke's household. Gu Yinwan suddenly knelt on the ground, shouting. Today, the marquis's residence was bustling with activity. 2 matchmakers arrived simultaneously to propose marriages, filling the room with a sea of people. Gu Yinwan was the legitimate daughter of the marquis's household, one of the most prestigious noble ladies in the capital. By declaring herself lowly, she was effectively rejecting the match. The matchmaker from the duke's household instantly turned grim. You child, what nonsense are you spouting? The first lady scolded softly, shooting her repeated warning glances. The duke's match was precisely what the first lady desired. Gu Yinwan glanced at me in the corner, a confident smile curling her lips. When mother and concubine Zhao gave birth together, she bribed the midwife to swap me with Gu Jinyan. In truth, she is the legitimate daughter of the marquis's household, Gu Yinwan declared, kneeling on the floor. What's going on? Why is this different from my past life? Wasn't Gu Yinwan desperate to climb the social ladder? Now that the opportunity is right there, she suddenly refuses? Having grown up in the palace, the lady of the manor remained composed in crisis. She immediately ordered the matchmaker escorted out, leaving only the women of the household behind. Gu Yinwan clearly came prepared, bringing the midwife who delivered us as a witness to prove I was the true heiress. By now, the lady of the manor was seething with fury, glaring at concubine Zhao without a word. Gu Yinwan explained she'd only recently learned her true identity and, unable to bear my hidden talents going to waste, had taken it upon herself to reveal it publicly. The first lady dealt with concubine Zhao, beating her half to death before selling her off to the lowest brothel. Yet she still harbored affection for Gu Yinwan, allowing her to remain in her original courtyard. Now, with the matchmaker still waiting outside, the first lady found herself in a quandary. My status is lowly, mother. Please betroth me to the Su family, Gu Yinwan pleaded, kneeling once more. The first lady hesitated, but the Su family is impoverished. How could I bear to let you? I am willing. Unable to resist Gu Yinwan's persistence, and for the sake of the marquis's household's reputation, the first lady reluctantly agreed to her request. As Gu Yinwan departed, she chuckled triumphantly in my ear. Sister, congratulations. At that moment, I knew for certain, I wasn't the only one reborn. Gu Yinwan was too. Her actions today were all part of a scheme to swap marriages. She'd wed the poor scholar, while I'd enter the duke's mansion. But how could she know my path wasn't fraught with danger too? I was reborn, only discovering at death that I was the marquis's legitimate daughter. In my previous life, as a concubine-born child, I endured harsh treatment and scorn from childhood, frequently beaten by my stepmother and Gu Yinwan. Because the Su family had saved my father's life, he vowed to repay the debt by promising his daughter in marriage to them. The Su family was impoverished, so I, the unloved concubine's daughter, was sent off to settle the debt. Su Zhan's home was bare. After marriage, I sold embroidery to fund his studies. He left early and returned late daily, yet failed the imperial exams year after year as our household grew ever more destitute. In stark contrast, Gu Yinwan became the glamorous duchess. Each time she saw me, she flaunted her newfound status. Later, when enemy forces besieged the city, I urged Su Zhan to flee. Instead, he transformed into the rebel commander. He declared the current emperor tyrannical and the people suffering terribly, vowing to overthrow him. Su Zhan came to my thatched cottage to bring me to the palace. Holding me close, he whispered, "Third sister, come with me to the palace. Be my empress." I was truly afraid, yet I dreaded leaving him even more. Rumors spread that Su Zhan's rise to power was illegitimate, making him increasingly sensitive and suspicious. The Imperial Astronomical Bureau's divination foretold his death at the hands of a descendant of the former imperial line. He immediately ordered the slaughter of all former royal family members, sparing none with even the slightest blood connection. The Duke's mansion, seeking to protect itself, readily handed over Gu Yinwan. She was beheaded alongside the eldest princess, the First Lady, as a public warning. As she died, Gu Yinwan screamed that her identity was false, that the true legitimate daughter of the Marquis's mansion was the current empress. My eldest son was already 5 years old at the time. Su Zhan came upon hearing the news. No matter how I pleaded, he insisted on drowning the boy. Only then did I learn I was the sole surviving bloodline of the former dynasty. The mission to kill Su Zhan now rested on my shoulders. I drew my hairpin to stab Su Zhan's throat, only to be pierced through the chest by a guard's sword. When I opened my eyes, I had returned to the day of the marriage proposal. When Gu Yinwan died, I had just been crowned empress. She must have believed that swapping places with me would make her Su Zhan's queen. How utterly foolish. Before I knew it, the day of my wedding arrived. The First Lady pitied Gu Yinwan, fearing she would suffer injustice in her new home. She went beyond propriety to prepare a lavish dowry for her. Yet its scale did not surpass that of mine, the legitimate daughter. Now my status was worlds apart from before. The First Lady personally instructed me in palace etiquette, her teachings stern and exacting. She feared I might disgrace her if I failed to uphold propriety at the Duke's residence. Yet I mastered every rule with ease, much to her surprise. The night before my departure, she came to my chamber and gave me the jade bracelet the Empress Dowager had bestowed upon her. "My child, you've endured so much these past years." So she had always known my suffering. The First Lady knew full well of concubine Zhao's harsh treatment of me, yet she turned a blind eye. In their eyes, only the legitimate offspring held true nobility, while those born to concubines were mere ants, to be trampled upon at will. This jade bracelet may seem like a treasure now, but it will become a hot potato in the future. Gu Yinwan had coveted this bracelet for a long time. Upon learning the lady had given it to me, she stormed over in fury. "Give me back the bracelet. Mother promised it to me before." I obediently handed the bracelet over, my tone earnest. "Since you like it, sister, take it." But to Gu Yinwan's ears, it sounded like I was flaunting my jewelry collection and pitying her. Gu Yinwan took the bracelet, glaring at me with venomous eyes as she snarled, "Fortunes change like the tides. Don't gloat now, your suffering is yet to come." I couldn't fathom why she seemed to hate me more than the man who killed her in my past life. A single day seeing 2 daughters wed from the Marquis's household was a rare spectacle in the capital. Yet as the legitimate daughter, my dowry spanned 10 miles of crimson finery, while Gu Yinwan's, despite the eldest madam's generous additions, paled in comparison. The Duke's wedding procession radiated opulent grandeur, while Su Zhan borrowed only a tattered bridal sedan chair. We each ascended into sedan chairs utterly unlike those of our past lives, departing in opposite directions amid the clamor of music and fanfare. My husband, He Qi, was the sole heir of the Duke's household. In my previous life, I'd only met him a few times at my maternal home, yet he was notorious throughout the capital as a notorious playboy. To curry favor with He Qi, Gu Yinwan indulged his debauchery after marriage, even aiding him in deceiving superiors and concealing his misdeeds. Consequently, the Duchess grew increasingly displeased with her. Later, when Su Zhan demanded her, the Duchess handed her over without hesitation. It seemed that to establish myself in the Duke's residence, I still needed the approval of the elders. The door slammed open, and I heard someone stumble in. "Don't leave. Keep drinking." The veil was lifted. A young gentleman adorned in a jade crown and brocade robes, with rosy lips and pearly teeth, bent down, flushed, and stared intently at me. "This isn't right, you don't look like the woman in the portrait the matchmaker gave me." He Qi chuckled foolishly. "You're even more beautiful, like a celestial maiden." I silently muttered to myself, "Fool. Not quite a celestial being, but I do practice the arts of Huanglao, capable of discerning heavenly secrets. Do I look that easy to fool?" I replied mysteriously, "My lord, simply order men to carry several water vats to the ancestral hall." "Wait there." Though skeptical, He Qi still dispatched servants to fetch the vats. Just as the water jars were filled, servants rushed in reporting a fire at the ancestral hall. He Qi hurried off with his men to extinguish it. The duke's mansion was lavishly wealthy. To celebrate He-Chi's wedding, fireworks were set off all night long as if money were no object. Sparks flew onto the ancestral hall's roof, instantly igniting it. In my past life, the He family ancestral hall had also suffered a devastating fire that consumed every ancestral tablet. Rumors then swirled that this marriage was ill-fated, provoking the ancestors' wrath. Gu Yinwan had been unable to hold her head high for quite some time afterward. He-Chi returned swiftly. The moment he entered, he knelt before me with a thud. "My lady! You truly are a divine being." Fortunately, the water vats I had them prepare extinguished the flames as soon as they started. The ancestral hall remained unscathed, and the Duke and Duchess weren't even disturbed. I pulled him up, nodded calmly, and casually pinched my fingertips as I spoke slowly. "This calamity has been averted. The Duke's household will now enjoy smooth sailing. However, my lord..." He-Chi swallowed nervously. "In 3 years, my lord will face a great calamity. But if you heed my words, I shall guide you through every peril. I'll listen to everything you say, my lady." His clear, foolish eyes made me chuckle. Thankfully, He-Chi was an uneducated playboy, otherwise, I'd have a hard time pulling this off. Crossing my legs, I gave him a forced smile. "First, throw away your cricket cage. Starting tomorrow, you begin studying." He-Chi felt like crying. After a pause, he muttered under his breath, "If I study hard, my brothers will definitely laugh at me." Is that so? If I heard correctly, the martial arts champion announced today was none other than your good friend, young Master Hua. That bastard Hua Qingde. When I ordered He-Chi to study, I never truly expected him to pass the imperial examinations. After all, he holds hereditary nobility. Even if he never strives for advancement, he'll never want for food or clothing. What I wanted was for another person in the Duke's mansion to witness my resolve. On the very first day of our marriage, after paying respects to our elders, I sent He-Chi off to study. He dared not voice his resentment. By afternoon, the steward handed me the key to the inner chambers, stating it was the Duchess's wish. She had entrusted me with stewardship. The first step of my plan, establishing a foothold in the Duke's residence, proceeded smoothly. But I won't remain here forever. I must swiftly prepare for the next phase. For the 3-day post-wedding visit to my family, He-Chi eagerly prepared lavish gifts early in the morning to accompany me back to my parental home. We had yet to consummate our marriage. I had warned him to abstain from lust and anger before the great calamity. Thus, his demeanor toward me was more respectful than affectionate. The Duke's carriage, along with the gift-laden wagons, blocked the alley completely. Watching it made my heart ache. How much better it would be if all that money had gone into my own coffers. The Su family carriage was Gu Yinwan's dowry gift. Without even a coachman, Su Zhan personally drove it here. Gu Yinwan affectionately slipped her arm through Su Zhan's as she stepped down, her face aglow with blissful happiness. The grand lady's gaze lingered briefly between Gu Yinwan and me before finally settling on me. She stepped forward and seized my hand, the gilded bracelet glinting in her grasp. Both sons-in-law paid their respects to the Marquis and the First Lady. Su Zhan possessed striking good looks even in plain cloth garments. His innate noble bearing remained undeniable. Before he descended into madness, he had always presented himself as a gentle and refined gentleman. The First Lady looked at He-Chi with affection, her tone tinged with concern. "My daughter's manners are lacking. I fear she may have offended the Duchess. Please forgive her, son-in-law." He-Chi responded swiftly, "Mother-in-law, you flatter me. My mother adores my wife." On our wedding night, she entrusted her with the household management. Now, everyone in this house follows her lead. What? They gave you control of the household? Gu Yinwan's shrill voice cut through the air. In her previous life, Gu Yinwan never gained control of the Duke's household until her death. No doubt the Duchess feared that granting her that authority would only embolden He-Chi to act even more recklessly. The First Lady shot Gu Yinwan a disapproving glare, forcing her to lower her head in resentment. "Why?" Gu Yinwan muttered under her breath. Just like in her previous life, the First Lady completely ignored Su Zhan, not even offering a greeting. "All right, you two go explore. Come back for dinner later." The home mansion's rear courtyard housed a pond of koi. He had been pestering to see them since his arrival. Figuring the banquet wouldn't start for hours, I let him go play in the back. I headed alone to my former quarters, only to encounter an unwelcome visitor midway. Su Zhan. He seemed to have been waiting there, staring at me with a faint, ambiguous smile. Su is not one to exploit favors for gain. My proposal came solely for your sake, young lady. I glanced around in alarm, dreading that others might overhear. Had Su Zhan lost his mind? I was now his sister-in-law, how dare he come to seduce me? Half a year ago, he happened upon the ladies of the home mansion going to burn incense. Spotting me standing in the corner of the crowd, he felt we shared a common plight, both despised and mistreated. He wanted to save me. But Su Zhan couldn't understand, why had the home mansion's legitimate daughter become you? I replied casually, this marriage was chosen by your wife. You should ask her. With that, I turned away and walked off without another word. Yet the moment I stepped outside the courtyard, my legs trembled so violently I had to brace myself against the wall. Facing this madman head-on again, I was truly terrified. My lady, what's wrong? Who's been bullying you? He appeared out of nowhere, rushing to support me. He peered outside, though I couldn't tell if he spotted Su Zhan. I made up an excuse about being startled by a stray cat and hurriedly pulled He away. That night, I tossed and turned, convinced this couldn't go on. Su Zhan's very existence was a curse. Now that the entire Duke's residence was under my command, why not just eliminate him outright to prevent future troubles? Just as I pondered this, He entered the room with his head hanging low. His demeanor clearly signaled he'd made another mistake. My lady, there's something I feel I must tell you. Today in the courtyard, I actually saw Su Zhan. Thinking he'd bullied you, I secretly had my men beat him up to vent my anger. But just as his men were about to put a sack over Su Zhan's head, several skilled black-clad men descended from above and beat his men to a pulp. I know hitting people is wrong, but I just wanted to get back at him for you. Hitting people is nothing, your wife was even planning to kill him. I sighed deeply. It seemed I had no choice but to seek another path. Stay away from Su Zhan in the future. That man is no good, I cautioned He. To solidify my reputation as a fortune-teller, I often made predictions about trivial matters, leaving He utterly dumbfounded. Fortunately, in my previous life, Gu Yinwan, eager to show off, had recounted every detail of the Duke's household to her family. I'd overheard it all. I'd only made He study to keep him from getting into trouble, but the boy had actually taken to it. Even his teacher said he showed promise. The Duke and Duchess had been smiling more lately. In their happiness, they'd showered me with gold, silver, and jewels. Now, money is what I cherish most. I've considered exposing Su Zhan outright, but treason carries the punishment of exterminating 9 generations. Our Marquis 8 wouldn't escape execution either. The safest plan I can devise is to leave Great Liang before Su Zhan raises his army, fleeing to a place beyond his reach. After all, I have no attachments in this world. Then I could travel the mountains and rivers alone, seeing the sights I missed in my past life. Just thinking about it feels exhilarating. So for now, the most urgent task is to save as much money as possible. Half a year has passed since I entered the mansion. I remain vigilant, and the steward has not made any major mistakes. My in-laws prefer quietude, even the morning and evening greetings have been dispensed with. I might not see them for 10 days or half a month. He, who once needed my urging to study in his study, now burns the midnight oil, quite pleased with himself. This autumn's provincial examinations, He says he intends to take them. In the carriage, he grips my sleeve nervously, asking me to divine whether he'll pass. In my past life, he was always a wastrel, never even taking the preliminary exams. How could I possibly know? As long as you give it your all, my lord, unexpected rewards will surely come. I smile and pat his hand. I never said the reward would be passing the exams, that's not deceiving him. At the entrance to the examination hall, I spotted Su Zhan and Gu Yinwan. Gu Yinwan had grown noticeably thinner, her former bling-adorned appearance gone. Now, only a silver hairpin graced her head. I heard that even after marriage, Gu Yinwan couldn't shake her extravagant spending habits, quickly squandering her entire dowry. No matter how much Gu Yinwan protested, Su Zhan stubbornly insisted he had no money. When she spotted our entire family come to see us off, Gu Yinwan looked as if she'd seen a ghost. Gu Xinyan, what are you doing here? Naturally, my purpose mirrored my sister's. Now that Gu Yinwan and I had swapped positions, she from legitimate elder sister to concubine-born younger sister, she stood beneath me in both status and age. She couldn't stand it when I addressed her as sister. True to form, Gu Yinwan flew into a rage, blurting out, as if your family's good-for-nothing could pass the imperial exams? You must have bribed the examiners. The Duchess of Gu had just stepped down from her carriage when she overheard Gu Yinwan's insolence, her expression instantly turning icy. Su Zhan hurriedly pulled her behind him, apologizing profusely to us. My wife has recently conceived and is emotionally unstable. I beg your forgiveness, madam and young master. Gu Yinwan is pregnant? The Duchess, poised to erupt, waved her hand dismissively upon hearing the news, though her gaze now held a hint of disdain. This look was one Gu Yinwan had seen all too often in her past life. Suppressing her humiliation, she forced a smile and helped Su Zhan tighten his cloak. Failing the exams matters little. My husband is destined for greatness. He will surely achieve grand accomplishments in the future. I shall wait. She was still dreaming of becoming empress. Seeing this, He Chi tightened his cloak around himself and deliberately declared in a loud voice, I will pass the imperial examinations. One day, my dear wife, you shall be the wife of the top scholar. You must pray for my success. Gu Yinwan's expression darkened further, while the Duchess beamed like a flower. Watching He Chi enter, I sincerely hoped he would achieve his wish. Gu Yinwan leaned close and whispered, what skills could you possibly have? He Chi is a piece of rotten wood, nothing compared to my husband. We'll see about that, I said, tilting my head and raising my voice slightly. Sister. Gu Yinwan stormed off in a huff. On the day the provincial examination results were posted, our entire family was at the home mansion celebrating father's birthday. We sent a young servant to check the notice board. He passed. He passed. The young master passed. The servant burst in from outside, his excitement palpable. The key phrase was that only one person had passed. Gu Yinwan dropped her chopsticks, leaping to her feet. Overjoyed, she dashed toward the men's table, heedless of propriety. I knew you could do it, my husband. Su Zhan, however, remained unruffled, though the faint smile playing at the corner of his mouth betrayed his thoughts. I glanced at He Chi with concern. He'd prepared for so long, he must be devastated. The servant caught his breath again, it's He Chi, the scholar. He's the top candidate. First place in the provincial exams earned him the title of top scholar. He Chi, who'd been slumped in disappointment moments ago, suddenly lit up. He tried to rush toward me, but was already surrounded by admirers, unable to break free. Gu Yinwan and Su Zhan were left standing aside. Gu Yinwan, furious, flung her sleeves and stormed off. Su Zhan hurried after her. The bait was set. It was time to reel in the line. I quietly followed them. They stopped at an abandoned courtyard seldom visited. Gu Yinwan covered her face and began to cry. I, the daughter of a noble marquis, married you. I never even got to enjoy a single day of happiness. Now I'm carrying your child. When will you finally let me hold my head high? Su Zhan awkwardly wiped her tears, pleading, let's go back and talk about this, okay? No. Gu Yinwan snapped, her patience shattered. When exactly will you raise your army and slaughter them all for me? My heart skipped a beat. How could Gu Yinwan blurt out something so grave? Did she think death wasn't coming fast enough? Su Zhan was sensitive and suspicious, he'd even kill his own son. He could easily have slain Gu Yinwan right then. His back was turned to me, so I couldn't see his face, but his rigid posture told me he was just as stunned. Father commands troops. If I plead with him, he'll surely aid us. Gu Yinwan's eyes reddened as she implored Su Zhan. Su Lang, do not hesitate any longer. It seemed Gu Yinwan wasn't entirely foolish, she still knew how to offer bait. Su Zhan, ever cautious, immediately stepped out to check for anyone nearby. I quickly slipped away. If Su Zhan was bound to rebel eventually, I'd rather stir up trouble while his power was still fledgling. Truthfully, Su Zhan's real identity was the son of a feudal prince. But with 5 legitimate elder brothers ahead of him, this illegitimate son had been neglected since childhood. When his father, the prince, died suddenly, his brothers turned on each other in a bloody struggle for the throne. In the end, the crown unexpectedly fell to Su Zhan. Judging by the timing, Su Zhan must have only just received the imperial decree confirming his succession. With his position still precarious, how could he dare to rebel rashly? Back at the banquet, Gu Yinwan wore a radiant smile. She approached me with a wine cup, offering a toast and congratulating me with unusual warmth. Even the First Lady, who had been displeased with her moments before, now wore a pleased expression. Yet, when we were alone, Gu Yinwan whispered darkly in my ear, "Gu Xinyan, your good days are numbered." Su Zhan had rebelled. 3 years earlier than in my previous life. The enemy forces were still insignificant, merely skirmishing over a few southern cities. Yet the court's deep-rooted corruption had festered for too long, and the old emperor remained incompetent and senile. After much deliberation among the court officials, it fell to the 70-year-old veteran general to personally take command and lead the troops into battle. With the front lines deadlocked, a small enemy force breached the defenses and charged straight toward the capital. These past few days, I'd ordered my men to quickly pawn off the fields and shops from my dowry for banknotes. I'd also prepared a fast carriage, ready to flee at any moment. If Gu Yinwan gained power, I'd be her first target. I believed the Duke's residence might survive my absence. Yet Gu Yinwan arrived sooner than I anticipated. Disguised as merchants, the enemy infiltrated the city, opened the gates for their main force, and swiftly stormed the imperial palace. The old emperor fled in disarray. Households shut their doors, terrified of being implicated. That night, a nervous knock sounded at the duke's mansion gate. Gu Yinwan, leading her troops, shouted from outside, "Hear me, all within. Hand over Gu Xinyan, and I'll spare your lives." She wanted to see me suffer the same fate as in our past life. I stood at the doorway, glancing back at the household. If they handed me over, I wouldn't blame them. These days since my marriage here have been the happiest of my life. All listen to my command. The Duchess roared, snatching the sword from her maid's grasp. I swear to protect the young mistress with my life and defend the Duke's residence. Yes. Swords drew from scabbards in unison. Not a single soul flinched. Since taking charge of the Duke's residence, I've trained numerous skilled guards, even the gatekeepers possess formidable martial arts. I stood frozen, words choking in my throat. He pulled me close, clasping my hand with unwavering resolve. "My lady, we are family. We will never abandon you to save ourselves." Because of Gu Yinwan's fate in my past life, I never dared to bet on the Duke's residence protecting me. Outside the gate, enemy soldiers relentlessly rammed the door, while our retainers fought desperately to hold it shut. Gu Yinwan had already lost her mind upon hearing the Duchess's words. She ordered her men to set the gate ablaze to force us to open it. In an instant, flames erupted outside, forcing us to retreat to the inner courtyard. The enemy breached the gates, and chaos erupted. While shielding me, He was slashed across the arm. Enraged, the Duchess sliced off an enemy soldier's head with a single sword stroke. She stood there, radiating fierce valor, a stark contrast to her usual complaints of fatigue and reluctance to manage household affairs. Gu Yinwan personally drew her bow, aimed the arrowhead at me, and pulled the string taut. "My lady, be careful." Without hesitation, He stepped in front of me. The Duchess positioned herself before him, and the Duke shielded her. The arrow flew, trembling as it fell to the ground. Our silence was deafening. Suddenly, reinforcements charged in, routing the enemy forces. Gu Yinwan fled in disarray, escorted by her men. This enemy force had only seized the moment, catching the capital off guard. All the garrison troops stationed in the suburbs received word and rushed to the rescue. Su Zhan had ordered Gu Yinwan to seize the palace first, but she was solely focused on capturing me. By the time reinforcements arrived, it was already too late. Fortunately, only a few of our men were injured, none were killed. Since my rebirth, I'd only thought of escape. Now I no longer wished to flee. I vaguely recall the enemy's tactics from my past life and resolved to aid the front lines. He insisted on accompanying me, but I naturally refused. Gu Yinwan desires only me. As long as I remain outside the Duke's residence, I'll be safe. Why must you wade into this mess? He shook his head, his solemn expression making him almost unrecognizable. When the nest is destroyed, how can the eggs remain intact? He pulled a blood-stained letter from his sleeve. That youngster Huqingda died on the front lines. I must avenge my brother. Huqingda and He had been childhood companions. Before the decisive battle against the enemy in Bingzhou, Huqingda left a final letter, entrusting his family to He's care. The Duke and Duchess, though reluctant, supported our departure when they learned of our plans. Seated in the carriage, He asked curiously, "My lady, how did you prepare so much provisions and such swift horses in a single day?" I gave a nervous chuckle. Of course I couldn't tell him I'd prepared everything a month ago. Within Nanyang Commandery, I encountered a charlatan peddling his magic potions to villagers, promising eternal life. I recognized this man. Soon he would be recruited by Su Zhan and later become the imperial astrologer of the new dynasty. How laughable that I only now realize the prophecies of the astrological bureau in my past life were nothing but schemes for emperors to wield power. Su Zhan, seeking to eliminate threats from the previous dynasty, deliberately had the astronomical bureau issue prophecies as a pretext to slaughter all nobles of the former regime. As for my eldest prince, merely because he displayed exceptional intelligence from childhood, prompting ministers to petition for his appointment as crown prince, Su Zhan grew fearful of him, going so far as to kill his own son. He captured a wandering charlatan and beat him. I then disguised myself as a female warrior to rescue him, presenting him with a silk pouch containing 3 prophecies. First, this summer the southern rivers would flood, drowning many. Second, the north would suffer a severe drought, yielding no harvest. Third, Su Zhan would die by the hand of royal blood. If the first 2 came true, he would firmly believe the third prophecy and even share it with Su Zhan. Even if Su Zhan remained skeptical at first, doubt would be planted in his mind. I would use the same method to bring about his own downfall. He and I rushed to Hanyang City. The garrison commander, Gu Changxing, was a distant relative of our Gu family. From him, I learned that Gu Yinwan sought the Marquisite's troops to aid Su Zhan, but the Marquisate refused and severed ties with her. Yet recently, Su Zhan personally led his forces, driving our army into repeated retreats. If the assault continues, the situation will turn dire. Should the enemy breach Hanyang City, they could advance unimpeded, swiftly threatening the eastern capital. How many troops does our Gu family still command? I asked Gu Changxing. 70,000 cavalry and infantry combined. The enemy has 100,000. The atmosphere in the tent grew heavy. With reinforcements slow to arrive, we feared being trapped and starved out in Hanyang City. I have a plan. I studied the sand table and shifted our garrison troops to southern Yunnan. The flooding rivers in the south will halt the enemy's advance. Even so, they could reach Hanyang City within 10 days. At this point, only 10,000 troops remained to defend our city. The remaining 60,000 troops would march to southern Yunnan, attack Su Zhan's headquarters, cut off his supply lines, and force him to retreat. Through this back-and-forth maneuver, we could buy time for reinforcements. The expedition to southern Yunnan would be led by Gu Changxing, with He accompanying him. I would remain in Hanyang with the remaining troops. The night before departure, He asked softly, "My lady, divine for me, will I return alive from this journey?" Candlelight made his eyes gleam. "My lord, with the 4 directions deities watching over you, victory is assured. You shall return in triumph." He's face lit up. He embraced me, murmuring promises of touring mountains and rivers after victory, riding in my swiftest carriage. Su Zhan's forces reached the very gates of Hanyang. I stood upon the city walls, meeting his gaze coldly. Gu Yinwan had given birth to a son. At his birth, colorful birds circled the sky, which Su Zhan hailed as an auspicious sign, boosting the morale of his soldiers. He was adept at using such tricks to manipulate people's hearts. "Gu Jinyan, considering you are Yinwan's elder sister, if you open the city gates, I will spare your life and grant you the title of first-rank noblewoman." Su Zhan negotiated with me beneath the city walls. I cupped my hand to my ear and shouted, "The wind's too loud. What the hell are you yapping about? Kill him!" Fortunately, we had fortified our defenses in advance and held the city against Su Zhan's fierce assault. Rumors were now spreading through Su Zhan's army. Seeing the first prophecy of flooding rivers come true, the charlatan revealed the third prophecy to Su Zhan. So when Su Zhan stood beneath the city walls gazing at me once more, his eyes were clouded with murderous intent. Gu Yinwan insisted on watching the battle, not forgetting to fan the flames beside me. Gu Xinyan is the daughter of the eldest princess. Kill her to eliminate future troubles. Kill her. Though the city held after this assault, the defending soldiers suffered heavy casualties. They simply couldn't withstand another wave of attack. Su Zhan fared no better, however, needing 2 full days of rest before preparing his next assault. The trumpets sounded the charge. Clad in armor and gripping the sword the Duchess had given me, the very blade she wielded in her own battles, I marched forth. If I could delay the enemy even briefly today, I could buy the citizens within the walls a sliver more time. That would be a worthy death. Suddenly, a swift horse charged through the ranks, heading straight for Su Zhan. Su Zhan took the letter, his eyes blazing with fury. He tore it to shreds. He glared resentfully at the gates of Hanyang City. Retreat! I breathed a sigh of relief. Before he turned to leave, I called out to him, propping my chin on my hand. Su Zhan, for the sake of our former kinship, I'll tell you this. The jade bracelet your wife wears was passed down from the Empress Dowager of the previous dynasty to the eldest princess. It's a royal heirloom, passed down through the imperial line. Should you ever fall into poverty, you can pawn it. Gu Yinwan's face instantly drained of color. She treasured that bracelet dearly, always wearing it. Now, however, she hastily removed it, flinging it away as if to avoid it. The bracelet shattered into 2 pieces, sinking into the dust. But once seeds of doubt are sown, how can they be easily uprooted? Heqi's forces stormed the palace of the Prince of Dianan, only to be blocked in the capital by Su Zhan, who had arrived in haste. All news of them ceased. The final report stated they had only 10,000 troops left, besieged within the city by Su Zhan. I ordered the broken jade bracelet returned to the capital, specifically to be delivered to the First Lady. True to my expectations, the long-delayed reinforcements immediately rushed to aid Dianan. My father, cunning and crafty, outwardly refused Su Zhan's invitation but feared offending his future sovereign. Thus, seeing Su Zhan's offensive gain strength, he withheld reinforcements to curry favor. By delivering the jade bracelet, I led them to believe Gu Yinwan was dead, causing Su Zhan to sever ties with the Ho family estate entirely. I suspect the First Lady aided this scheme, seeking vengeance for Gu Yinwan. In her heart, Gu Yinwan alone was her beloved daughter, regardless of birth status. Sadly, Gu Yinwan never realized, even in death, that she possessed many things I could only dream of. It matters little. Some familial bonds I never gained in my past life, and I hold no expectations for them in this one. With reinforcements, Su Zhan found himself attacked from both fronts and his forces quickly collapsed into disarray. He fled with his remnants of defeated troops, losing track of Gu Yinwan along the escape route. In a remote mountain hamlet, only a handful of households remained after the war's ravages. My men searched here and found Gu Yinwan clutching a child in a cellar. She was filthy, her body covered in festering wounds. The child in her arms, silent and still, crawling with maggots, had been dead for days. I entered the cellar alone, silently observing Gu Yinwan. In my past life, you usurped my status as the legitimate daughter. In this life, you chose Su Zhan. But have you truly gained what you desired? Gu Yinwan first looked stunned, then perplexed. Why, as Empress, would you still oppose Su Zhan? I pulled a hairpin from my hair, one I'd specially commissioned, identical to the one I wore when crowned Empress in my past life. I tossed the hairpin onto the floor, speaking calmly. In my past life, I used this very hairpin to kill Su Zhan. But you were already Empress. Gu Yinwan's world shattered. She desperately wanted to know what had happened after her death, to understand where her seemingly smooth path had gone wrong. I ignored her, preparing to leave the cellar, when suddenly the sound of a struggle erupted from above. Su Zhan had surrounded the place with his remaining men. He burst into the cellar and frowned upon seeing Gu Yinwan. From the moment he appeared, I understood everything. It seems your husband knew your fate all along, I said coldly to Gu Yinwan. Yet he let your child starve and watched you suffer, all to lure me out. Su Zhan waved his men to wait outside, leaving only the three of us in the cellar. He approached me, blade raised, his eyes dark and menacing. Rumor says I'll die by the hand of royal blood. Today, I'll see whether it's you or me who falls. I gripped my sword hilt, feigning calmness. The one who seeks to kill you is not me. A flash of silver, Gu Yinwan picked up the hairpin from the ground and lunged at Su Zhan, plunging it with all her strength into his heart. Blood spread in a crimson circle as Su Zhan stared down in disbelief. He grabbed Gu Yinwan, snapped her neck, then charged at me with bloodshot eyes. My sword left its scabbard, piercing straight through his chest, just as I had done in my past life. Su Zhan coughed up blood and collapsed, lying lifeless beside Gu Yinwan. Gu Yinwan still clung to life, her gaze fixed and vacant as she murmured, again. Just one more lifetime. I will defeat you. No chance now. Truthfully, on the day of my rebirth, I faintly heard a voice whisper that I had been dragged into this world by another's resentment. If that obsession remained unbroken, I would fall into boundless hell, doomed to eternal torment. Now I realize it was Gu Yinwan's unresolved obsession that dragged me here. A month later. With Su Zhan dead, his remaining troops surrendered their weapons and were incorporated into the imperial forces. After enduring the turmoil, the old emperor passed away not long after. The newly enthroned second prince proved a benevolent and enlightened ruler, determined to root out the long-standing corruption within the court and throughout the realm. He decreed a special imperial examination to be held the following year. He planned to take the spring examinations, studying diligently day after day. My father, blamed for delaying military intelligence, was reprimanded by the new emperor. His military authority was stripped, leaving him a retired marquis. The eldest madam, shedding her former strong-willed nature, moved to the Buddhist hall, spending her days in the company of ancient Buddhas and flickering lamps. I had intended to request a divorce from He once my affairs were settled, yet each time the words reached my lips, I found myself unable to speak them. A cup of tusu wine to usher in the new year. On New Year's Eve, He and I drank together as we stayed up to welcome the new year. As the wine began to take effect, he leaned on the table, looking troubled. My dear, when will this 3-year ordeal of mine finally pass? It's not that I'm anxious, it's just that my mother is eager to become a grandmother. Once you become the top scholar, I'll plead with the gods to lift your calamity. His eyes lit up instantly. Ma'am. I was willing to give him a chance, and give myself a chance to start anew. The end.